I know we've got a lot of big thoughts on it. Obviously, we got the Champions League panel here today. Got my boy Adam, got my boy Julian, myself here. We're gonna break it down a little bit to talk about the final. Kind of dive into it. Let's just get straight into it, guys. Adam, I want to go to you first. Overall thoughts. Were you expecting this type of victory? I know as an Arsenal fan, it may be pained a little bit, but what were your overall thoughts in this game?
Well, I think you summed it up very well there with your start. Just like your internet, Inter Milan just did not show up at all. Um, I think it was. I think I expected PSG to win, and I think I expected PSG to win. I wouldn't say like convincingly in terms of the score, but like on the field, like a nice 2-0 or a 3-1, something where they dominated the whole game, never really looked like they were gonna struggle. So this was shocking to me. I think it wasn't so much as we knew PSG were going to come out. They've been hot. Everybody on that team has been playing really well. It seems like coming out of the winter break, they were the best team in the world, in my opinion. I was a little doubtful on them because I was riding the Arsenal train for a little bit, but you know, you saw during those two legs, you saw what was going to happen, and I think that painted the picture. And you look at what Inter Milan had to go through. You knew it was gonna they would have to show up fully to even be in the game, and they did not at all. And that's just what was the difference right then and there.
Yeah, Julian.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him, man. It just seemed like Inter just didn't show up. Look, I had PSG winning the game, obviously coming into this. And Adam's right. Since the winter break, they have been the best team in the world. I had Liverpool, but the moment they played Liverpool, I haven't seen a Liverpool hadn't looked that like on the ropes all season. And then that's when I saw that, I was like, this team is different now. Because they started off really slow in the Champions League. I remember they had like tough results against Girona where they probably should have looked a little better. I know they had a couple they lost against Arsenal. There's a couple games where they didn't it took them a minute to get into rhythm. And the way Luis Enrique has been able to mold this team into what he actually wants, it makes you think like, while I was watching this game, I'm like, imagine if Luis Enrique had the current Spanish team and not the one that he went to the World Cup with in 2022, because like you could honestly like the teams are built like almost the same. And just imagine this is a PSG team without a striker, without a proper number nine, and what they were able to do with attacking pieces
Yeah.
that they have. I'm gonna say it right now, Kvaratskhelia is the midseason signing of the year. There's not a better one. I mean, the game-changing ability that he was able to bring to this team, the creativity and the attack, especially what he does with his right foot. Obviously, he didn't do too much this game. He did have one goal, but throughout the season, man, this guy has just been an absolute baller. He's been hitting bangers and everything. But like Adam said, and I'm going to start off with the first half. Inter they just looked so slow, and we all knew this PSG team was a fast team. Like they're probably the fastest team in the world. I mean, they have the technical ability and they have the speed of and be able to go up and down. And the midfield and Inter felt like they just couldn't control. They couldn't get possession of the ball because the moment, and this was like the great game plan that Luis Enrique did was how he was able to. Because the one thing I was always saying was that Inter was so good in transition. Like they were dominating team. That's how they were winning. That's how they got to this point was their ability to hunker down and be able to hit on the wings with DiMarco or maybe Barella through the middle and catch him on counters. But they diffused those things instantly, and it was basically with the press. It's not often that you see a team that not only wants possession and plays possession ball, but then also presses immediately. And there's only so many teams that can do that because not everybody has the athletes to be able to do that. I mean, these guys were literally like they would lose the ball, immediately press, immediate like Bastoni was struggling, like he couldn't get it out, like
Yeah.
Honolulu, he couldn't do anything. Barella was the only one to kind of get something going. DiMarco was absolutely getting cooked on the left side on Due. Like there's just nothing they can do, and it was like I didn't know what happened to Inter. It was crazy, and I think this was the best game PSG's played all year, And
I think you
granted,
said
I
it
think if
right
you
there.
run this back, Inter probably doesn't lose that bad. But I think
Yeah,
PSG played it to the T. They played it perfectly. You
but
couldn't ask for a better execution.
I do want to jump in and just say, like, you did say it right there, and just this, and we have touched on this briefly, like in the past when we were talking about like tactics and play styles that work. When looking at teams and making predictions, and one of the things that I've said, and I don't know if you've, if in the past have agreed with me, um, but I've said that any team that can play that type of style, that relentless pressure, possession, you lose the ball, you press it right back. If you have 11 players, including the goalie, because you see it with team like Arsenal getting rid of their goalie every third season and upgrading, you think, oh, this guy's good, and then they upgrade, and then you're like, how do they keep upgrading? Well, because they know they need someone to play. They need 11 players in the system. So if you have those 11 players, which PSG absolutely have the 11 players in the squad that can play that type of football, that's the best tactic. It's just when you have one or two pieces missing, it doesn't work. That's what happened with City this year. Um, so I think that you're still going to be chasing that, but you're going to need to keep in mind that throughout a long season, you're going to have to build your team with depth because if you're missing a couple pieces, you're just not going to be able to do that. And I think that, like you said, Inter were probably going to lose anyway. Maybe if you play this game again, they're not going to lose like that. But that pressing set the tone, and Inter were not ready for it. And that was just the end of it from right then and there.
Yeah, I'll let Will
Yeah.
go. I got some more thoughts too, but Will, what'd you
Yeah.
think?
Listen, I think you guys both brought up really, really good points about it. Now, I want to pose a question to you guys. Julian, you kind of even hit the nail on the head a little bit. Listen, Afkram Hakimi, I think he made Federico Di Marco look like a child this entire game. I mean, he was getting
Mm-hmm.
absolutely bossed. And I'm talking about from minute one. That first goal, just incredible. Shout out to Hakimi, not celebrating the goal, by the way, against his former club. But yeah, listen, I think you guys brought up a lot of good points. Now, I want to pose to you guys um, just kind of a little tactician question for you guys. Maybe we could go with the layup answer, but I want a reason. I want to hear a reason from both of y'all. Who is your man of the match? And not just oh well, he scored the most goals or he had more assists. Who was the man of the match for PSG and just absolutely dominated?
Uh, I can go first on this. One for sure, and
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say this, but I didn't get to it. Vitinha, man, Vitinha. He is the unsung hero.
I like that.
Everybody's going to look
Yeah.
at Due. Everybody's going to look at Carvajal, Dembele. I was watching Vitinha, and that man was everywhere, everywhere. He was pushing. He was like kind of filling that nine role. He was all the way back playing the CDM. He was distributing the ball. He was the true link. Like as much as I love Fabian Ruiz and Joao Neves, it didn't feel like they were made too much of an integral role as much as he did. Like this guy, I just felt like he was playing the open spaces. He was everywhere. It felt like anytime Hakimi needed an outlet, or whoever Due needed an outlet, or Marquinhos or whoever, he was there. And then he would push the ball forward. It just felt like he was just freaking everywhere. And he's everybody, like I said, he didn't score the goal, so no one's gonna think of him. But like, there's a real argument to be made that Vitinha might be one of the top three midfielders in the world. Like and no one
Yeah.
talks about
Oh
it because he
man,
plays at PSG. Like the
you
dude
might.
has been unreal, and like and all Champions League season long, and this season, like dude has been out of his mind. Like it just felt like he had just had an engine that could last. Everybody on this team felt like they had an engine that can last forever. But the way I'm curious to see what his like stats were, but like that guy was everywhere.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Adam.
I'm annoyed now because I love picking my CMs, but I have to because that's who I wanted to pick from the beginning anyway. But when a CM is that involved, like Julian said, they're also, like I alluded to before with the system, they they're the most, arguably the most important position, especially when you play that formation, that 4-3-3. You're going to have other players helping out, but you need to be able to do everything, and you are going to be able to, or you're going to be asked to do everything in that game. Vitinha answered that question and said, "No problem, I will do everything. You asked me to go defend, I'm going to defend. You need me to facilitate, I'm going to facilitate." You want me to dictate the tempo? I'm going to dictate the tempo. I pulled up some of his stats for the game, just so I can give a bit of It does say he has one assist. Yes, he does. So he has an assist. He had 72 out of 80 accurate passes for a 90% chance pass completion.
That is
Created three
insane.
chances. His his expected assist was 0.74. His expected goals plus assist was just a 0.74, so it sounds like he did not take any shots. 89 touches in the attacking third, one
That's
touch in the
crazy.
opposition box, seven passes into the final third, two of two from accurate, two of two from the cross, two of six from the long ball, only one for two on tackles won, but two clearances, one headed clearance, one interception, five defensive actions, and two recoveries. In terms of dueling players, he had two duels won, one lost, and then on ground duels, he was two of two. So
That's
meaning he lost
insane.
his
That
only aerial duel that he had was lost. He
I
was
mean,
not
that the
he did not
stats
commit any fouls and was not fouled.
the stats
That
say
was
everything. I mean,
yeah.
the fact that how much he contributed in the attack. Obviously, there wasn't a lot that he needed
Yeah.
to do
And one more
defensively because they
thing,
just pressed so well.
but
Like,
I do want to say
mm.
real quick, well, the last fun fact from this is FotMob notes that Vitinha completed the most passes out of any player in the match.
You know what's crazy?
I would hope
I don't know
so
about you
with
guys.
that
I
number.
didn't even look at the stats. I just like just watching. So
Oh,
everybody
you
calls me a
know.
Yeah.
fat mob merchant, whatever. I'm hearing
Come
those
on now,
stats for
you
the
know.
first time. And
You
like,
know just the midfielders, and if anybody says that, then they can shove it up their ass because midfielders, when you learn and you actually and if you don't know, then you probably haven't been to a game in person that has a good center midfielder. I've
That's
gotten
true.
to see
You know that.
some great center midfielders. I was lucky enough to see um, Pirlo before he was done. You know, that was fun. I saw some good Premier League midfielders, some high quality like box to box guys. Like you get a respect for someone like John Joe Shelby, you know? And you're like, who's John Joe? But
Yeah.
there's a reason he's had a career in Premier League. You know, you get a respect for these guys who do the dirty work and aren't exactly getting the praise every game, and you pay attention to them more. And then when you go home and you're watching the game on TV, you pay attention more to them. So that's what I would say is just it's something that you get a true appreciation of when you know what you're looking for and you start paying attention to it in person. That allows you to start watching it behind the scenes. So
well,
we know Julie and I have talked a lot. We love watching these guys off the ball, especially these pivotal players and these playmakers who can create a goal just by where they decide to play themselves, and it's just so much fun to watch.
it's like all those like Madrid bots that were saying Vinny should have won it over Rodri, and it's like you're just not watching the game. You're watching goals.
Right.
Like you're watching the ball. Like if you watch the
Yeah.
game, if you watch off the ball play, like it was clear. But I don't want to get too much off topic. But one other person I did
Yeah.
want to name that everybody thought that it was going to be Lamine Yamal as the young player of the tournament and going to be the youngest
Mm.
player to win a Champions League. But it was your man Due, the guy, the unsung hero. No one was really talking about. He wasn't really starting. You had Barcola over there for a while. But this
Yeah.
guy just played with so much confidence. The youngest, he scored a brace into the Champions League. He had amazing flair. I don't know if you saw he did the I can't remember the what exactly it was, but either way, his play with him and Hakimi just bouncing off each other was just incredible.
Mm.
And also too, the positional play and where they were able to change things with Dembele, Kvaratskhelia, or whoever, they were able to just like move around in almost like a total football type of sense. Like I felt like everybody was
Right.
everywhere because there was times where you'd see Hakimi playing like way up top centrally positioned, and then you'll see Dembele on the right. Then he'll come to the left. Kvaratskhelia kind of stayed in the middle to the left, but then Due would push in like it. Like the way that they were able to just cover each other was just immensely impressive. That not everybody can do. It was almost like very Pep esque in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
but just a little different. But yeah,
Guys,
it.
I want to
It was
shout out
impressive.
two names. Come on, y'all. Listen, I got to show some love to my defenders, man. Give it up to the center back duo Marquinhos. 13 years, man. This guy waited his time out, and William Pacho. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said Julian, a team that was kind of just under the radar. This was a player under the radar, Ecuadorian national team player William Pacho. I mean, this guy 2 years ago was playing at Independiente del Valle. So to see the journey that he's made, and it's completely his story's so different to Marquinhos. 13 years, man. I mean, he's played with Zlatan, Edison Cavani, Di Maria, Lionel Messi, all these big names, and he even talked a little bit about it on the post game show with CBS Paramount. It was so many different personalities, so many different teams, all throughout the years. But yeah, like you guys said, it was a collective mix, man. Donnarumma, Nuno Mendes playing injured. I mean, all these guys were absolutely incredible. Last question, though, I want to ask you guys, kind of speaking a little bit in terms of Lionel Messi, Kylian Mbappe, Angel Di Maria, and all these big names, some of the best players of the world, of our generations. Why were these guys not able to win a Champions League, but Dembele, Barcola, João Neves, these guys were? What was the difference? Julian, I'll go to you first.
For me, it's just the ego. I think a lot of it is, and all those guys rightfully deserve to have an ego. I mean, these guys are some of the greats. I mean, they're some of the best of their generation. But I think the problem is they came into PSG already in that prime, already having that ego, already having that establish of who they are. And it was crazy. I was actually on Instagram and I saw a reel and it was like a behind the scenes of Luis Enrique. And when you actually hear this man speak, you start to realize like, oh, I understand the problems that he had his first year at PSG. I understand the problems that he had with Spain because one of the things he's preached, he's like, you're nothing special. He's like, you don't save lives. You play football. You're not as important as a doctor. You're not as important as a firefighter. He's like, you play football. That's great. Just because you get paid, that doesn't make you special. And when I heard him say that, and even everybody in the comment, I was like, that's why it didn't work. Because the sad thing is that speech doesn't work with an Mbappe. That speech doesn't work with a Messi. He probably wouldn't even attempt to say that to these guys. And yeah. I think it took them to work together as a team. And clearly on Luis Enrique's system and his tactics, it's just like Pep in that sense where everybody has like a specific role that they need to play and it can be interchanged really well. And for Messi in that sense, I think it worked in Barca because that was just kind of Barca was ingrained in him. He didn't feel like he was bigger than Barca in a sense. And I'm not saying he felt like he was bigger than PSG, but I think it's just different when for a long time that PSG were just bringing in players. And this is the first time like a lot of these guys are younger. This is kind of like their first kind of real experience with a high level Champions League team. Like, I can't even think. I mean, I guess Kvaratskhelia was with Napoli and then Dembele was with Barca, but those were all kind of weird situations. And none of them were like the guy. And I think a lot of these players that come onto this PSG team, none of them were expected to be the guy. And everybody thought this was going to be the downturn of PSG when Mbappe left. Everybody thought like this is over. But really, it lifted a weight off their shoulders that like, you know what, like screw everybody else. We're just as talented as the rest of the world. We can
And it's a
win
big
it. So, and
FU to Mbappe after
yeah,
everything that they went through. But I mean, you're so right about ego. I mean, that's a big part of it. And that comment about, the comparison, you can't give that conversation to those stars. I mean, that is so true. I think another part of it is that, some of these people, as good as they were, like I mentioned earlier, this PSG team had 11 players who were there and they were all knew their role and did their role to perfection. Um, when you had some of these guys there, like the Messis and the Di Marias and things like that, you can argue that there was always maybe one guy or two guys that are just kind of placed in that lineup, not necessarily because they're a good fit, but because they're a really good player and high scoring and high assisting, and they just never really had that cohesive unit. There was always
they were
an
doing
odd one out.
Chelsea before Chelsea did Chelsea.
exactly, that's a perfect way of putting it. So it's not just the ego. It's in this modern era, you have to have 11 players all working towards the same goal and doing their role. And if you have a team, and then let's say, your team is really good, but then you decide to throw Messi and Mbappe up front, and now all of a sudden that's out of whack, and your team's good still, and you're going to win games and you can win leagues just by talent, but when it comes the dog days of Champions League, and you need 11 people doing their job to perfection, there's going to be gaps and there's going to be mistakes and hiccups. And that's really the key of why this team did it and the others didn't. And also pressure, I'd say would be the final thing. Having, like you said, with the weight lifted off of their shoulders, they don't have these superstars. It's not, oh my God, win or bust for PSG. Now they have these good players and they can just have them go out there and play. And Luis Enrique can just go out there and set up the tactics. He doesn't have to worry about this BS. He just goes, he has a team, go out there and just win some games. So I
Yeah,
think there's a
and I
lot of reasons why, um, and we can talk about this all day, but
yeah,
those are the main reasons.
and I do want to throw in one more question to you guys, just real quick, and then we'll end
Mhm.
it here because I know Will's gotta go. But to switch it over to the Inter side a little bit, this is now two Champions League finals lost in 3 years, back to back losses. Is it time to reconsider
Mm.
a switch up and a change of this Inter team? Granted, this Inter team did just win the Scudetto last year. This year they fell short to Napoli. Then they lost the Coppa
Yeah,
Italia, and then they lost the Champions League. They pretty much dropped the ball in the treble. They were one game away in each single one of them. Uh,
yeah,
I guess I'll point it to you, Will, since you talk too
yeah.
much. What do you think of this Inter team? Is it time to kind of reset a little bit?
See, the biggest thing is, I'm gonna be real, Julian. I'll make it real quick, like you said. I know we got to roll, dude. The thing is, it already felt like they hit the reset button back in 2023 when they lost to Manchester City. Andre Onana was the starting goalkeeper in that game. He was gone. Obviously, Eden Dzeko started that game on the left wing against City. Dzeko's gone. Obviously, he's playing over in Turkey now. So it just kind of already feels like there's been a little bit of a reset. The formation's still the same. Obviously, the main three center backs, they rolled with it. I won't lie to you. I'm not going to lie. The Benjamin Pavard move, just a little key thing as well. That kind of, I know he was out for a month on injury. So, obviously, this is still Benjamin Pavard's one of the best center backs in the game. So it was interesting to see, though. But yeah, I don't know. I'm going to be real, Julian. It feels like Inter Milan has to do some deep, deep, deep soul searching. Obviously, like you said, they had the trouble right there in their hands, and this season seemed to be everything was going to go smooth for them at the end of it, and they just bottled all three of them. And I think the Champions League was the biggest slap in the face. So I think they have to do some real deep soul searching. Listen, I love me some Lautaro Martinez, man. I love Lautaro, and I love Thurman as well. I think Thurman's a very, very kind of complements him quite well, kind of how like Lukaku did when he was there in his days. So I think they're going to have to find another nine, somebody else, maybe to kind of mix it up a little bit, add a little bit of flair up top. But I think this is going to be a big summer for them. Obviously, Inter Milan have the Club World Cup coming up, so we'll see how they fare there, and we'll see if they're able to regroup for that tournament.
Yeah, and just to add to you, like I agree with you. Maybe not a full reboot, like a soft reboot.
Yeah,
They need a
soft.
reboot
Mm-hmm.
in the midfield. I think
I
that's the
agree.
biggest position.
Yeah.
I think the midfield, I because they just got outclassed, and I think Barella,
Mm-hmm.
he's getting older now. He's been playing for a while. Kind of Lulu, also the same thing. Like I think they need an engine in there again to maybe you keep Barella, but I think you need some other players in there. I like if they had a Vitinha on that team, like that would have done wonders for the system that they're trying to do and what they're trying to build
Would have been
specifically.
huge.
So I think they just
Mm-hmm.
they I think they need to revamp that midfield. Coming from a AC Milan fan, like that's kind of what I see because obviously they do a lot of play through the wing with Di Marco and stuff. But the moment that they shut down Di Marco, there was nothing to do. Like they were lost. It felt
Mm-hmm.
like they couldn't do anything on the right side either. So, but yeah, any final thoughts, Adam, for Inter, and we'll end it off here.
Yeah, I just want to echo what you guys said. I don't think that, you know, yes, they choked, their multiple trophies here, but the fact of the matter is they made the Champions League final 2 years in a row. So that's a big accomplishment. You need to keep some of those pieces that work and just maybe change the mentality a little bit. Get some better tools in the toolbox, some better depth, and you'll be good. So I would say no to a full rebuild, and agree with you guys, and just say maybe a soft reboot here.
Yeah, the depth for sure. I do always felt like
Yeah.
they're not super deep as you would expect from an Inter team. But anyways, I
Mm,
want to thank everybody. If you
yeah.
made it to the end of this episode, we greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to audio platforms, please make sure to leave a rating. We'll greatly appreciate it. And yeah, got more content along the way. A lot of Club World Cup as well as some CONCACAF Gold Cup. And yeah,
Woo.
we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.